here we go. 8 ounces going to kilograms. All right, so let's start with 8 ounces. I like to draw my line like that. We're going all the way to kilograms, so let's look at our conversion factors down here, see if we see ounces anywhere. So I see 16 ounces is a pound, and pounds and kilograms there. Tons and pounds, we're not really going to use that one this time anyway. So with 8 ounces to kilograms, we can go to pounds first because we know that there are 16 ounces in 1 pound. And then we have a pounds to kilograms factor down here. So our first step is going to be to use this one here, and then our second step will be to use this one at the bottom. So 1 pound is equal to 16 ounces is what we're going to use first. Since we have ounces on the top, we need to move ounces to the bottom, and we are going to move it to pounds because that factor down there is ounces and pounds. And how do you know which way the numbers go? Well, it tells you that it's 16 ounces. So 16 goes with the ounces. We have 16 ounces, and that was equal to 1 pound. We can move on to our next one. Now let's get pounds to our ending factor of kilograms. And we know we can do that because this one right here, number 2, says 1 kilogram is equal to 2.2 pounds. So, since pounds are on top, we have to move this pound unit to the bottom, and we are going to get it to kilogram. And you can just double check your numbers again. 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds. So the 2.2 has to go at the bottom on the pounds, and that is equal to 1 kilogram. And that is all we needed there for this line. We're going to leave it. So 8, or in your calculator, you would go 8 divided by 16 divided by 2.2, and you would get your answer. And that would be in kilograms. The next one, you got 7 days, and we need to get to seconds. And we always want to move days down here right away. We'll see what we want to go into. Off the top of your head, I'm guessing we don't know how many seconds are in a day. So we can't go directly from days to seconds, but we could go from days to hours. In 1 day, there are 24 hours. And since hours are on the top, let's get hours to the bottom here. In 1 hour, there are how many seconds? Well, not 60 seconds, but there are 60 minutes. In 1 minute, now we know there's 60 seconds. And this would be where we could stop. And so in your calculator, 7 times 24 times 60 times 60 will give you your answer in seconds. Next one is 100 yards, and we want to convert that to meters. Meters and yards are very close. If you're holding a meter stick, it's just a little bit longer than a yard, 3-4 inches longer. But you got yards on the top, so immediately you want to move yards to the bottom. And our goal is to get to meters, so meters are in metric. We're currently in just our imperial units with yards. So let's get down to that bridge number, which would be our inches to centimeters. So yards, let's get to inches somehow. We don't know how many inches are in a yard. Well, maybe you do, but I know how many feet are in a yard for sure. 3 feet in 1 yard. And then move your feet down here in 1 foot. You got 12 inches. Move inches to the bottom. 1 inch is the same thing as 2.54 centimeters. And now we have gotten to centimeters. Let's do one more step and move centimeters down here. And we do know the relationship between centimeters and meters. In 1 meter, there is 100 centimeters. And that would be all of the math you got to do there. So type that in your calculator, 100 times 3 times 12 times 2.54 divided by 100. And you would get your answer, and that answer would be in meters. Number 4, 5 gallons is what you're starting with. And we want to get 2 liters. Well, if you look down at the bottom, do we have gallons and liters? Let's just... Okay, gallons and liters. I see gallons and quarts. I see quarts and liters there. So it looks like those are going to be the ones that we want to use since we're starting off in gallons and we want to get to liters. So we are in gallons. We want to get to liters. So we can first use this one right here because this one's going to get our gallons to quarts. And then once we know our number in quarts, we can go from quarts to liters. So we'll use this one second. So 1 gallon is the equivalent of 4 quarts. Let's throw that in first. Since gallons are on the top, move gallons to the bottom. 1 gallon, 4 quarts. And then use that next factor, which says 1 quart is equal to 0.946 liters. Okay, and that would be where you get to stop there. So plug that in your calculator, 5 times 4 times 0.946, and you don't have to divide by anything because just 1's on the bottom. And that's going to give you a number in liters. Number 5, now you got miles per hour, and it's 0.25, not 25. So 0.25 miles per hour. Let's put that 1 hour down on the bottom. We can hold off on canceling out our hours right now. Let's just focus on getting miles to miles. So we don't have to focus on that. It's already in miles. But we do have to get hours to years. So since hours are currently on the bottom, you have to move hours to the top. You can't simply go hours to years right away because we don't know that factor. But let's get bigger. Something bigger than hours. Well, there are 24 hours in one day. Could do that. And then day. Do we know how many days are in a year? We do. 365, 1 year. And that is where you would end. You could go from 24 hours one day and say roughly 30 days in 1 month, and then 12 months in a year, and 30 times 20 is going to give you 360. So that'd be a number fairly close, but this just accounts for those 5 more days. So let's go with this one. Whoops, you'd take 0.25 times 24 times 365, and you would get your answer, and it's going to be in miles per year. All right, next one, number 6, 30 miles per hour. 30 miles over 1 hour. And we need to get to feet per second. So we do have to change our miles this time. Move miles down here since miles were on the top. In 1 mile, we do know that there are, right here, 1 mile is the same thing as 5,280 feet. So 5,280 feet is in 1 mile. So we've got our units into feet. Now we have to get them into the seconds. Okay. So we have 1 hour on the bottom. We got to move the hour to the top. And we want to get smaller. So we don't know how many seconds are in an hour right away. But let's just go one thing smaller than an hour, which would be minutes. In 1 hour, you'd get 60 minutes. And then in 1 minute, there would be 60 seconds. And now we would be in our seconds. And this is where you could stop and start to plug in your numbers. 30 times 5,280 divided by 60 divided by 60. and your answer would be in feet per second. Okay, number 7, 30 miles per hour. Over 1 hour. And we want to get to meters and seconds. So get miles to meters. Well, meters is metric, miles is not. So we're going to have to get to that bridge number. That 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. So we want to get down to an inch. Well, if we're in miles right away, let's get to feet. So we know 1 mile is 5,280 feet, like the one above. But we got to go a little bit further here. So since feet are on the top, move feet to the bottom. In 1 foot, that is 12 inches. In 1 inch, that is 2.54 centimeters. So we made it to our bridge. We're now into metric. We're in centimeters, but we want to get to meters. So you have 100 centimeters in 1 meter. So we've gotten to meters like we want. Now we want to get our hours to seconds. Since hours start on the bottom at the beginning, right there, you got to move that hour unit to the top as you're doing that. And so 1 hour is, let's see here, we want to go down to seconds. So let's go minutes, 60 minutes first. Then in 1 minute, you would have 60 seconds. And that is how you would end it. So double check your 60s are on the bottom, otherwise your number is going to be much bigger than it needs to be. And your answer would be in meters per second. Number 8, 250 centimeters per second. 1 second. And we want to get to kilometers per hour. So centimeters are metric, kilometers are metric. We don't have to get down to that bridge. But kilometers are much bigger than centimeters. So this centimeter number is going to, you could go right to kilometers if you know that factor. Let's just go to meters. We have 100 centimeters in 1 meter. And then there would be 1,000 meters, and that has to be on the bottom because I have meters on the top in the bracket before. Now meters have to be on the bottom. It always has to be opposite. And then on the top, you can go now to 1 kilometer. All right, now we got to get our seconds to hours. Since seconds start on the bottom at the beginning, you have to move that second unit to the top. And we want to get to hours. So do we know how many seconds are in an hour? Maybe, but we for sure know 60 seconds in 1 minute. And then you got 60 minutes in 1 hour. Okay, and we are where we need to be. So at this point, you can plug it into your calculator. And your answer would be in kilometers per hour. 2 more. 1,000 pounds per minute. Okay, move pounds to the bottom. We want to get it to tons. So do we know how many pounds are in a ton? And down here in our conversion factors, I see a pound, 16 ounces. I see a ton is 2,000 pounds. So we want to use this one here. 2,000 pounds is 1 ton. So 2,000 pounds, 1 ton. So we're already in our tons number. Now we want to get minutes to years. So minutes start on the bottom. You got to move minutes to the top. Minutes, let's go to hours first. So we got 60 minutes in 1 hour. And then move hours to the top. Can we get to years yet? Not quite, but whoops. 24 hours in a day, 1 day. And then you got 365 days in 1 year. And that would be your ending spot there. Get your answer in tons per year. All right, last one. 20 liters per second. Put the 1 second there on the bottom. Let's go from liters to gallons. So we know gallons and quarts like before, and then we can get it from quarts to liters. So we're going to use the same kind of 1-2 equation there to get our liters to gallons. Since we're starting in liters and liters were on the top, move liters to the bottom. And the number that goes along with it is 0.946 liters. And that is the equivalent of 1 quart. And then we are in quarts. So you got 4 quarts. And that is the equivalent of 1 gallon. Now we are in gallons. Let's get seconds to minutes. So you got 60 seconds and 1 minute. And that is where you can stop. So then plug in your numbers. 20 times 60 divided by 0.946 divided by 4 equals gallons per minute.